moral problem, the notions have been always that some people explain addiction as a moral problem. They're weak or they're bad, all right? Some people have explained it as a psychiatric problem. They have an underlying psychiatric disorder, and that's why they drink the way they drink. The problem with moral problem, that notion is the variety of people that addiction happens to. In other words, to claim that it's a moral problem is to force all these different people. Now let me tell you who we're going to fit into this morally weak or bad box. Ready to hear some of those names? Well, the first would be Buzz Aldrin, second man to walk on the moon. You mean to tell me he didn't have the right stuff? That he was weak or that he was bad? Oh my God, no, he walked on the moon, damn it. He had the right stuff. He proved he had the right stuff. He's alcoholic as they come. We're going to have to throw, every time I'm asked if there is an alcoholic personality, I always say, yeah, but you know, we're not sure whether it was Betty Ford or Anna Nicole Smith. They're being so similar, you know. The slut from Hollywood and the first lady. Or if it's a male who asks, I say, but we're not sure whether it's Mozart or Johnny Cash. You've got to squeeze all these people into this same characterization that they're weak or they're bad, and they won't fit. Just won't fit. Alcoholics are your neighbors. One of them's your minister. Okay? You may have a physician who is an alcoholic, who may have operated on you, as a matter of fact. The notion that it's a symptom of a psychiatric disorder, the problem with that idea is twofold. First is, if you believe it is a deep and abiding psychiatric disorder, then you have to explain to me how 2/3 of the alcoholic population, once sober, have no psychiatric diagnosis. The only way you could explain that would be to say what we witnessed there is spontaneous remission. What that means is they had a deep and abiding psychiatric problem, but it went poof. It went away. Poof. I don't know about you folks, but when I've worked with psychiatric patients, their psychiatric problems don't disappear overnight. All right? You don't find spontaneous remission of serious psychiatric disorders. They require serious treatment. The other problem is this, and we had a patient once who left saying, I don't have an addiction problem, but I do have a psychiatric problem. I'm going to therapy. I'm going to go twice a week. And some member of the staff said to her, don't drink while you're going. Makes no sense to pay a psychiatrist that much money and to go there either drunk or hungover. She thought that made good sense. And so she abstained for 2 years. Went to a psychiatrist, went to him twice a week. Psychiatrist worked with her, didn't use medications of any mood-altering type at least. Did talk therapy, and it was effective. She was healthier at the end of the 2-year process. Got it? She decided to celebrate her newfound mental health, and you know how she did it? Started drinking again. Guess what happened? She was back in treatment in 6 months. So even good psychiatric treatment administered by the right people without drugs and over time still doesn't work. It doesn't take. Somebody asked me why I called the book a drinking problem. It doesn't cure a drinking problem. Got it? You may find out why somebody drinks, but that's irrelevant. The problem isn't why they drink. The problem is that once they drink, they can't control it. That's the problem. Okay? So all of these myths cloud the way we think about and then deal with this group of people. Addiction doesn't require physical dependence. They can be completely addicted to any drug on the face of the earth, and the diagnostic manual does not require that you manifest physical dependence on that drug. So when I worked with patients, I could say this patient is psychoactive substance dependence, alcohol, continuous, without physical dependence. Doesn't have to show the shakes. Got it? Not required of the diagnosis. All right? So it doesn't count. Beside that, that's not the biggest issue in addiction. It's not the shakes. We can get rid of the shakes fairly quickly, all right? But we can't get rid of that other part. of the human brain that says, I love this drug. And geez, no matter what happens to me as a result of it, even if I get pustules on my hands, I keep going back to it. Okay? You want to know what an addict is? He's someone who over a year has manifested a pattern of loss of control. In other words, once he starts, cannot consistently predict how much he'll drink, for how long, and what will happen as a result. In the presence of tolerance, which is all by itself a problem, isn't it? If you're tolerant of a drug, I always say to kids, you think you were lucky because you could hold more than everybody else. All it means to me is you can kill more brain cells than the other kids. That's all it means to me. You know, you're not lucky, you're unlucky. All right, tolerance, and then persistence despite problems. If those three things are happening over a period of time, you have an addiction. The only way we know how to treat that is through abstinence. And not just abstinence. It's not a matter of just stopping drinking. You got to deal with that denial and that love and that all that other stuff that goes with it. Okay? I always say that if AA had promised nothing more than abstinence, it probably wouldn't have lasted more than 6 months for alcoholics. They'd have said, is this all there is? We get to be sober? Damn if I want that, you know. Give me something in return. I don't want to just stop drinking. You're a recovering alcoholic. What does that mean you get to do? It means you get to not drink. Good. Is that the fun part? What are you doing? I'm not drinking. Where do we go? Who do we go with? And then what the hell do we do once we get there? Sounds like a miserable life. If AA had only promised abstinence, it would have been going in, 1940. It would have lasted about 6 months. And they'd said, they don't have anything for us. Want to hear the marijuana myths? All kinds of myths about marijuana. Kids love to pass on the myths. One is that it's not addictive. Wrong. Wrong. Can you manifest loss of control, tolerance, persistence? Then it's addictive. Well, it doesn't cause physical dependence, so what? It's not necessary. There are plenty of alcoholics who have not been physically dependent. Marijuana is an addictive drug, all right? I worked with a guy for a year and a half. I met him once a week for a half hour. He had successfully arrested his alcoholism and his cocaine addiction. He described those two drugs in this way. He said, alcohol made me sick and cocaine, and I quote, threw me around the room. That was his description of cocaine. You know what drug he couldn't stop, he came to see me about? Marijuana. Marijuana, okay? Was he physically dependent on marijuana? No. No, you can't find a measurable physical dependence on marijuana, but that's not the big deal, got it? He said to me at one point, he said, Dick, I'm 43 years old and I'm hiding in my garage smoking pot. This is crazy. This is crazy and I can't stop it. And I'm going to self-help. You know, I'm going to AA and I'm going to NA and feel guilty as hell because I can't stop pot. You know what one of the hardest drugs is to stop? Nicotine. Nicotine. One of the most difficult drugs to quit. Why? Well, it's not withdrawal, is it? It's craving, right? There's a pesky little voice that says, smoke, 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 smoke. Pick that cigarette out of the ashtray, knock the end off, and light that son of a bitch. Smoke, right? I had a friend who was a psychiatrist who died of his nicotine addiction, and he described to me nicotine cravings as, he said, Dick, they're like pulses. You don't know when they're going to come on, but when they come on, they just won't quit. They just won't quit. Or they'll stop for a minute and then they'll be at you again.